Okay, what's up everyone? How is it going? Um, this is the second video of the playlist where we are solving the second problem in the top interview 150 list from Leetcode. The name of the problem is remove element. So let's read the question first. Given an integer array and an integer value, remove all occurrence of value in nums in place. The order of elements may be changed. Then return the number of element in nums which are not equal to value. So here the key thing to notice is that the question is asking us to do it in place, which means we are not allowed to create or use any extra space. And then we have to return the number of elements in the array which are not equal to the given value. Okay. So let's see how we can solve this. So here the approach would be, since we are not allowed to create any extra space or use any extra space, we should not be using a hash map or a set to see if we have already seen this element or not. We have to use the input array only to store whatever the state we need. For this problem, what we can do is there are two scenarios. First, we also need to count the number of elements which are not equal to value. So count the number of elements not equal to value. That's the ask. Now, another ask is we also have to remove all the occurrences of value in nums. So in order to remove that, what we can do is, let's say we have the array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we want to remove the occurrence 3, what we can do is we can swap the element 3 with the last element of this array. So the array will look like this. Now, why this solution works is that we are not asked to maintain the original order of elements in the array, which means that as long as we are swapping all the elements which are equal to value to the end or move them towards the end of the array, we are fine. Okay. So we loop over the array, we count the number of elements equal to value, not equal to value, and if we see value val during the iteration, we swap it with the element at the end of the array. Okay. So let's write code for this. Now we have to iterate from the beginning of the array. So let's say our pointer I is 0 and we have to go to the end of the array. So last index would be nums.length minus 1. So let's write a basic while loop which will iterate on the nums array. Now we have two things. We have to count the number of elements not equal to value. And at the same time, we also have to swap the elements or remove the values which are given to the equal value. So this gives us an interesting move that we can do is that we don't have to do anything with the elements which are not equal to value. So in that case, if we find an element terms of I and it's not equal to value, then what do? We don't do anything. We just skip the element. So in case this is not equal to val, skip. Else, in our second case, what we have decided here, we will swap the element with the last element of the same array. And we have the last element index stored here. So let's do that. So else, we do a swap, we pass the array, we pass the index of the element, and the last index. Now, every time we swap an element, we know that this value element was removed from the array. And in that case, what we want to do is we want to shift our last pointer from its original value by 1 to the left. So that's why we are decreasing the last pointer after we are swapping the element. Okay. Now let's see, once all the elements have been processed, which means we have processed all the elements, in that case, what will happen is we want to return the number of elements which are not equal to value. So here, let's say in this example, where the original array was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we replaced the value 3. So in this case, the last pointer will be pointing to this one. So here, the initial value of last pointer would be nums.length, which is 5 minus 1, which is 4. and then we want to swap it, and then the last pointer becomes 3. Now we know that wherever the last pointer is, that is the size of the array without the element which was initially asked by the problem to be removed. So in order to correctly return the size of the element, size of the array, we have to add 1 to the last index and return it. So we say last index plus 1. And since we don't have a default function for swapping, let's write that quickly. So public void swap nums file j, nums of j, and nums of j is equal to 10. Before running this, let me update the value of these variables because this should be last index first. And now let's try to run this code. So the initial test cases are passing, and now if we try to submit, it's going to pass. So that was the solution for remove element. See you in the next video.